Happy Thursday, everybody. This is Elisa from the Rebel Crone, and I'm back with my Thursdays with Maurice. We've been taking a little bit of a sabbatical I have to say, probably the last month or so. And that's going to be one of our topics today. There's a lot shifting and moving, and I've felt it in my world. I know Maurice has felt it in his world. And then we've got these great weather patterns coming through right now where Maurice is in the south. He just got inundated with snow, absolutely crazy. We're freezing here in Santa Fe. So it's very interesting times, and we're going to talk about some of that today. So welcome, Maurice. It's so good to be back chatting together.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm glad to be back.
Yay. And you've got snow out there.
We did. Pensacola, Florida. It's on the Gulf Coast, okay? Now, granted, it's in the Panhandle, almost in Alabama. Hell, I'm only about 10 miles from the border of Alabama, at the far western end of the Panhandle. Okay, it's still the Southland, let me tell you. And we got like 7.5 inches of snow here in Pensacola yesterday, one day. Now, I know compared to the northern totals that I've experienced and everybody who lives up north has experienced, that's just kind of a decent snow. But down here, that's a record beaters. Honestly, the previous record for Florida, which was in apparently either Pensacola or right around here, back in 1895, was only 4 inches. And just over the bridge over the next town over, Milton is the name of the town, about 10 miles from Pensacola, is they got 8.8 inches yesterday. That's a lot of snow, believe me. Even for the north, that'll clog things up for a day or two, maybe a day.
Yeah, it is a lot of snow. I mean, especially if you are with a community that
Huh.
or city town that is not experienced with snow driving. Maurice and I were
Well,
sharing before we got started that we both I grew up in northern Illinois, right on the Wisconsin border, and him in Detroit. So it's kind of almost like the same latitude.
it
And
is.
that you got a lot of cold and icy and really adverse conditions. So growing up, that was just part of learning
Life.
how to drive.
Yep.
Yeah, so being in weather like that, I'm confident going out in anything that I can maneuver it. Now, if it's a sheet of ice, nobody should go out because
Nope,
that's
I agree there.
beyond anybody's control with that. But you get into places where there people aren't used to that, then it's a problem because it's a different
Yeah.
kind of driving.
Well, I noticed I was out on the road yesterday when the snow first started, and I noticed that there was an awful lot of people missing on the road for that time of day. They just weren't already the roads in the city anyway. This is a city. It's a town of about, I guess, 60,000 people. So that's
Yeah.
technically a city. And the traffic, I was really struck with how few people were actually out on the road, and the roads didn't even have any coverage on them. It was coming down on the car. Well, as the day progressed, I can imagine nobody was driving out there except the poor cops or emergency vehicles that might have had to, go around. But anybody in their right mind should not have been on the road in this town yesterday. That's for sure.
Well, you know what, Maurice? I think that is like a really great analogy to get started with what I want to talk about because called about hunkering in. And I think we can all like agree that things are moving really fast right now. Like we thought last year moved fast just vibrationally, and then as it comes to focus in time and circumstances, I mean things are just like and this year is even more rapid. And I find for myself that actually I've taken this little sabbatical from making videos because I've been off balance, and
Yeah.
when I do my videos, it really requires for me to, as simple as my videos may seem, but the simplicity of it comes because of me being really centered and being grounded. And so I can hear and listen. I can, simplify and articulate what's going on in my heart, my mind, and all of that. And I've been having a challenge with that. I'm coming through the other side now, starting to find my footing in kind of this new vibration that's going on. Now,
You
let's the
know something?
caveat here. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna. You triggered something in my mind, and it was there, and I wanted to. I do want to express it. You know what that is? When you're in that flow, so to speak, that center point or centered, what you were just talking about. What it also is true is you're not cluttered with a whole bunch of other things. You're focused on what you're doing. It's clear. That is what you're focused upon, and you're not thinking about this, that, and the other thing. And that's what I'll be honest with you. That's what living in the now moment is all about. That is,
That's true.
it's
And
just
that's what's
simple
tripped
as
me
that.
up. That's what's tripped me up too, Maurice, is I'm spending a lot of time like researching and connecting and kind of expanding my connections in social media. So I've been spending a lot more time on social media, and I really see clearly now. I knew it before, but now it's just like really driven the point home that getting out there on social media and get caught up in all this stuff, it takes me right out of me, and I start spinning out there in this world as
Mhm.
opposed to being grounded in here. So I know the moderation I need to do with it, and just letting go and not doing looking at it at all for a period of time, especially if I'm going to be making videos, because
Exactly.
it's about me. It can't be about all these influences out there. Even though I don't let them into my inner range, it still does a little kerfuffling of the
Well, you're
outer
divided.
border.
You're divided. You're separating. You got 5, 10, 15 things potentially. Some of them are important, others are less important, but you're trying to keep track of all of them, and therefore you're divided up. And
Yep.
and when you're operating at a focus or a singular point kind of focus, then
Mhm.
then things go smoothly. You see more clearly. You see more clearly. Do you see perfectly clearly? Probably not, but you see way the hell more clearly than you do when you're divided up or scattered all over the place.
I like that. It's like singularity. People talk about the singularity. It's the singularity within yourself. And I think this is the whole point that I want to get into right now, Maurice, is that this I feel is the key thing that's required right now to navigate these this fast time we're in, this time of huge changes, this time
Mhm.
of a lot of stuff going on out there. It's really the time to just do the opposite. As we all know, is like what we're feel compelled towards, just in like maybe a response or reactionary way, is usually the exact opposite of what we need to do, right? So if we're feeling like, oh, what's going on out there, we're drawn out there, just know that's the intent and that's the dispersion of your energies and focus. So do the exact opposite of that, you know, put that aside and come back in here.
Yeah. Well, that we can all do that too. And if you're aware of it, conscious of it, actually, which means actively conscious, aware, in fact, the way I
Mhm.
use the word aware is in that context. You're consciously aware of it. You're thinking about it. You know about it. It's not like you're only focused, but with that simple awareness, you can stop yourself from getting lost in the confusion because the outward the more you spend your time scattered all over the place trying to manage a whole bunch of things, the less efficient you are at any one of them.
Well, this is so true. I mean, that's a whole other aspect of focus, completely. And that's kind of the diversionary tactic right now. It's kind of like the divide and conquer, but divide,
Oh,
divide,
yeah.
divide, 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 and be worried about this, concerned about this, or what's happening here, what's happening there. And
Yeah.
it's so easy to completely spin out with the outer world. And a lot of like most all of that is kind of none of your business. It's nothing you can do anything about. It's
It's
nothing that's contingent on you as far as, I mean, yes, we can all do something about it, but in the bigger context, as I bring myself in harmony and stay in a place of love and all of that, it ripples out and changes the world. Okay, outside of that, on all the other levels, what are you going to do about it?
it's entertainment actually. From our perspective, the further away from your local where you're at becomes just entertainment and distraction. It's fun. We all do it, and we love it. If nothing is comes into your awareness, you go out and seek it. That's why movie theaters were so damn popular for 100 years.
Yeah.
Now, why the computer is so popular? and all kinds and games. Gaming, I don't ever do that, but a lot of people I know do. It's gaming, just taking you're you're focusing outward as opposed to inward.
Yeah.
So what is that? That's entertainment.
Well, it's entertainment, right?
Well, it's that too. It's that.
Entertainment. Because it's not like, and it's like there's nothing wrong. I've been being creative all day long. I've been working hard, a lot of output of creativity. If I'm deep within, it takes a lot of energy. And I stop towards the end of the day, maybe do a little workout, make some dinner. You know what? I'm like tapped out. I want to be entertained. I'll sit down, I'll watch a movie or show or something.
I
I
do
keep,
too.
because it's really nice. Like, okay, just give me some entertainment. I have no more energy to create anything. But I know that I know I'm doing that and I know why I'm doing that. I'm not just like sitting there, completely numbed out to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or evading, other responsibilities that are there to be had. And some of them are even necessary if you want to
Yeah.
prosper. Again, you can go through, there's all kinds of ways to go through life. You've seen them in and around yourself. You've had choices to make along the way. And I pointed at you, but I'm sitting here talking about it. So I know about that too from personal experience. And
So,
the more focused you are, the better off you are.
I'm like, let's talk about this whole thing on choice a little bit because
Okay.
um I feel like in this new year, we're all being called to take it to another level, right? We're all being called to refine down our world so they're more accurate reflection of who we really are.
Right.
That's part of the refinement process is having the outside match the inside and get it more harmonious. And with that, one of the really important things that's on my plate right now is being responsible for myself, but I can't be responsible for how other people perceive and respond to my changes and to what I'm doing. And that's a big one. I don't know if it's as big for men, it's a huge one for women because we tend to want to please people. We want things to be smooth. We want everyone to be happy,
Right.
to one degree or the other, as females, we're raised in this peacemaking
Right.
mentality.
That's part of
And
your nature too. It's not something. It is who you are. It makes you different. It's part of your freaking beauty. And what makes you doing it? Yes, it's a difference. Men don't respond typically the way women do to a social situation. And what you're talking about, I recognize, I know, and man, I use it. I count on it, and I
Mhm.
enjoy the hell out of it that you all do it, so I don't have to do it.
Well, it comes easier for the feminine aspect, of really being the peacemaker,
Mm-hmm.
being the diplomacy aspect, the smoothing things over and finding a way of
Sure.
everybody, finding commonality in a situation.
Oh,
But with that,
you guys make community work.
yes, the village, what
Yes.
binds it together, the fundamental structure of it, not the survival, but the fundamental structure of
The,
connection. It's
exactly
women
true.
that do that.
Exactly true. There's no two ways about it. And men are very happy to let you do that too. They count on it, whether they
Because
know
they
they're
kind
doing
of
it or
suck
not.
at
And a
it.
lot of them don't know they're doing it for what it's worth. They don't know it, but they're counting on it nonetheless, or they're taking it for granted.
Exactly. Well, men don't take that for granted. Appreciate your woman, appreciate how she can maneuver socially, can maneuver in family situations, out in parties or whatever it is, just appreciate that, acknowledge that in her, and it
Yeah,
goes a long
and I
way.
want to say this to any men that are listening, if there are any. I use Shermy, there are some.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to let the woman know you know it, and thank them for it. And there's more than one way to say thank you. By the way, boys, you can show it to them, and let them know that you goddamn well appreciate them for what they're doing.
Oh my God. Okay, Maurice, that's like a whole other tangent that is so needed. Well, just suffice to say is that show your appreciation, men. Women don't assume like, well, of course I'm here and I love you and no, 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 no. Don't assume that a woman responds to an outward gesture and that's how she interprets it. That's how she really knows it. She
Exactly.
can't sit there and read your mind. I mean, but she likes to have the gesture of appreciation demonstrated.
I've
And
seen that in action. It's true.
it's powerful. Solidifying your relationship, nurturing your relationship, growing your relationship, a sense of intimacy, a sense of connection. This is all huge things. And this is how most women will understand it and perceive it, is because it's shown that we want to be shown. We want to be told, shown, all that. I
Yeah.
mean,
I'll tell
hands
you
down.
another thing too, especially in close relationships. How to say this the way I want to. You can't assume women know things. You have to verbalize it, show it, and make damn sure that they acknowledge that what you're sending is received. And they will. They'll let you know. They'll say words to you, but they'll show it in their actions too. But if you just take them for granted or make them think that they're being taken for granted, buddy, you're on the wrong track. You really are on the wrong track.
It's going exactly. It's not growing. There is no while we are homeostatic beings where our body wants to be in homeostasis, we're either energy is either moving up or it's moving down. It's always moving. So if you're not nurturing your relationship to grow, let me tell you, it's dissipating. You may
It
not think it
really
is.
is. Yeah,
It's going to, little by little, it is dissipating.
sure. And so many guys, they just take women for granted, or they just don't value them for what they're actually doing. And in that process, you just said it. If it isn't growing, it's dissipating. It is
It
not a
is.
static thing. A relationship is not a static thing. It doesn't reach a level and just stay there. It either continues to grow and get better and better and better, or and
It doesn't.
the first one that'll pick up on that is the freaking woman. And she won't say a word. She'll start noticing things, and the more she notices, the more that relationship separates. I know that for sure. I've seen it too many times.
And you know what? Me too. This has been part of my life story. And one of the things to me has been so like disappointing is when, because I'm very forward and honest about my thing, maybe a little bluntly honest, but I try to do it with
Probably
grace
you are.
and kindness. But I'm very clear. I've always been very, very clear about what's working for me and what's not working.
Right.
And how many times in relationships have I said it and it's not been taken seriously?
Yeah.
So things just are just going, it may not be, this month, next month, this year, next year, but it's a trajectory downhill.
Yeah.
And
Relationship is an active thing. It's not again. If a one-liner can come out of here, a relationship is not static. It's active. And it's moving in one direction or another.
up or down.
I'm talking to the guys in particular. The women know this shit. The guys typically do not. They have to learn it, or they get lucky and somebody tells them about it in advance.
And they take it seriously.
Exactly, and they take it seriously as wise counsel, and they actually act upon it. And
Because
you can maintain your independence. It's
know
not.
what it's not about that. And it's not a sign of weakness at all. What I've found is with men, it's like, okay, I've gotten the woman, I'm either married or in a relationship, whatever. And then they sit back on their laurels
Yeah,
like they just deserve it,
yeah,
and there's a certain level of arrogance on a man's part that is, and just to take this word with a grain of salt, but there's a certain amount of arrogance is like, yeah, I'm entitled to that. I got that. I won her over and this is it. I can sit back and she's going to do this for me and that. And I don't have to do anything else now. Or maybe I go out and I earn money and I do the things out there, but I don't have to actively nurture a relationship. You've got to feed it for it to grow. Not allow the woman to just be feeding it, because she's going to get exhausted. She's going to get disgruntled.
absolutely.
She's going to get drained from doing that, and it's going to drain away. And one day the balance is going to tip and it's not going to be in your favor.
You go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works that way. And the thing is, well, I don't grow stuff. My wife Beauty did. She would put a seed in the ground, and she had a little herb garden out here in the backyard, And yeah, you can buy the frickin' herbs at the store, but she would grow them and pick them and chop them up and do the whole thing in the cooking. And I loved that she did it. And I actually appreciated it. And I let her know I appreciated it. And I know it was an effort, but well, that's the thing. You get a woman working for you, she does it from love. Again, a woman will do that. That's part of who the hell they are.
Yeah,
And if you just pay attention to it and allow it to grow, and how the heck do you allow it to grow? You let them know that you see it, you appreciate it, and you enjoy the hell out of it. That's about all you have
exactly.
to do. It's not that hard.
Don't be a taker, be a giver too. Be a receiver, but to be receiving things is also being a giving. It's a flow. It's the laws of reciprocity, right?
Exactly.
And they
Exactly.
work, and that's an important law in a relationship. And I find that men tend to like, okay, yeah, they seem to take and enjoy all this, and they forget that they have to give back. It's going to be done in a different way.
Correct.
They don't take care of things and people and stuff like a woman will do, but do it in your male way. Women want men to be men. You do it in your male way. Open the door for every time she's in the car. Open the stinking door. I mean, women, if you don't want that done, then that's your jam. But for me, like I love chivalry, you know, and I like, my partner, I'd like to, even something needs to be fixed, I can do it. I'll ask him to fix something or do something because I know part of the male enjoyment is that of being feeling needed and they can take care of things, so allow a man to take care of things. Yeah, you can do it, but give him the joy. Now, this is for women. Give him the joy of being able to do something and provide and take care of you, even though you're fully capable. It ain't about that. Not about that. Does that make sense, Maurice?
Yes, it does. It
Yeah.
does. Yeah. Just just women being women is enough for you guys. But from a man's point of view, what would a man want out of a woman other than what he normally gets anyway, and half the time misses being really given? Um,
Mm.
I don't
Well, what does a man want out of a woman? I think that that's a really great question. Oh my God, we've gone into a whole other train I didn't think we are going to go into.
That's for sure.
Right.
Well,
And that's a good question is what beyond just I mean, know what it is that you want and also know what your partner wants. That's the most important thing we're talking about here. And if you
if you're
don't know,
smart, you
ask
want
him.
your the woman is, especially if it's a close relationship, used to be just marriage. In today's world, I don't know what they call it, partnership, all kinds of ways
Yeah.
of people living together, and but effectively, it's the same thing. It's number one companion is what the woman is. It's the number one companion in your life, and if you don't treat it that way, it won't be, because it goes back to what you and I were talking about just a little while ago. And if it isn't growing, it's deteriorating. You have to keep your eyes. It's not your sole focus. You can live and do all of the shit you do in the world, but just keep room and make sure that is nurtured. You do
Yeah.
that, and it doesn't take a lot of effort from a man to be able to keep a woman content and happy. But he has to keep it as a priority in his life. If he doesn't, it'll go. And,
Well,
it,
I look at
and
it.
when it goes,
Go
buddy,
ahead.
it is not fun.
It goes.
Yeah,
There's points of no return with that, for sure.
absolutely.
But it's like if I feel like in a partnership, and once again, let's just put the PC in here. Maurice and I come from generations where it was traditionally more male, female, women and men. And, that's my experience. So I can't talk about other kinds of configurations. It's not my experience. It'd be completely inauthentic for us to go in there. So we're talking from these terms. If you happen to love somebody of the same sex or whatever stuff's going on, whatever, there's still a dynamic. There's still a male female ish kind of, masculine, I should say masculine, feminine dynamics, because that's the polarities of the world.
I guess.
Somebody's more positive, someone's more negative, receiving, giving. So, either don't listen or just extrapolate how it works for you. Anyways, so where I was going with this,
That's your
where was
little
I
disclaimer.
that's like the disclaimer there. Every once in a while, I got to say that because I know, like, in some circles, this would be like, I'm just so un-PC, but I really don't care because it's
Couple.
about authenticity and I can't talk about that. So I ain't even gonna pretend to talk about that. Um, so what I was gonna say, okay, let me just gather my thought with that. Um, oh man, I don't know if I was going with that before I got PC'd myself right out of the
You
conversation.
sure did. And that's a case in point of how distractions come and disrupt.
Well,
Distract.
I felt it was important to say that. But really, like, just going back to this whole thing of nurturing a relationship, men, if you don't know what makes your woman happy, if you don't understand what her love language is, it comes down to his love language, ask her, simply ask her. Now I
Uh,
got my train of thought, what I was going to say. It wasn't that,
There's
but
another one too. Love is not just physical sex. In case, and there's plenty of young guys in particular, and some old guys too, never learn. There's way the hell more to it than just physical sex. Way more.
oh, yeah, the gold is I mean that's to me like the frosting on the cake. If everything else is working right, then that's a joy. And if that's not working, then you need to look and say, uh-oh, there's something deeper not working about my relationship because that's a sign. That's like a telltale sign of a deeper problem.
Yeah,
Because
that
it's
means you've
right.
already fucked up too much.
Yeah. But what I was gonna say more, I got my train of thought back.
Good.
Woo! um, is that in a relationship, if two people put each other first,
Yep.
even though you may have a priority of other things and a passion and mission and all this stuff in your life, but you put each other first, then for me, it's like I feel like I'm put first, then I put my partner's mission first too. And they put mine first. So
It
that
works.
on the outward, it looks like you're doing that, but really it's the underpinning of it, which is really the support structure
Right.
is the relationship and the nurturing of it.
Mhm.
And I do not like I'm not interested in codependent men. I'm not interested in, I like a lot of freedom. I've always liked a lot of freedom in my life to be expressive, explore, and be me. But so I like that granted, but I also like the security and the platform, a stable platform to which to explore and to do the things I do.
Well, the
Um,
things you talk about, you express the vision and the view and the characteristics of an independent, self-contained woman. You're not I mean, yes, we're all dependent upon each other for survival and all of that kind of thing in society. But generally, there's a vast difference of personalities amongst the people that are floating around here. And a lot of them are dependent, absolutely dependent. Internally, I'm not talking about external physicality, that goes with it too, but I'm talking about the interior strength of the person. And the more whole a woman is and the more whole a man is, the more likely they are to be independently and they can function independent. They don't need a person. They decide they want that person. And that's a different kind of a relationship.
yeah,
Somebody that has just got an acolyte around them, somebody that's sitting there bowing down to them effectively, one way or another. It's not formal, but it works that way. Dependent.
right.
And there's a lot of dependent women, and it used to be, again, going back in time, but back in the 50s, that was one of the negative things I saw growing up about the male female structuring of the parents I encountered. The women were not financially independent, and they were not socially encouraged to become that way. And in so doing, a lot of men became dominant ogres, for crying out loud. They just took the women for granted, and they missed so much about what the women were doing. I saw that in action, and that again, that's 50, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. It's a long time ago. I know that. And how the world works today, I don't know, but I'll bet you that what we're talking about is similar. And the people we're talking to are old enough to remember portions of that shit.
Yes, and part of that too, then we've got to like the trajectory of that. There was one you're talking about one end of the spectrum, and then the swinging to the other end of the spectrum was the women's lib movement,
Boy, was
which if you've actually studied any of this or really looked behind it, you'll understand, some of the other agendas with it. And just it wasn't just about emancipation of women and
Uh,
our and our rights. There was a lot of other things going on in that whole scenario. We'll leave it at that. But I know in my generation, because really going into high school and stuff at the end of the 70s, that it was the back, like I feel like there was a backlash of it, like that was difficult, a backlash within, like within us is like as young women coming into our own, it was just like trying to find like this middle ground, this whole stridency, the stridency of the woman's lived stuff. I mean, that was just that ignited anger in women. It was almost like a victimhood response. I'm take down the perpetrators,
yep.
take down men.
You're
And it's not about men are not the perpetrators. They may be, okay, once again, it's like with sex in a relationship, men. It is the telltale sign that there was something else going on. And then we were just expressing it out in these set roles that we took on that society was saying that you're to be like. They're trying to do the right thing. And this is, by God, this is what men do, because I bought into the whole paradigm of, in this era, this is men. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, but to be a real woman, then you have to be screw all that and be emancipated and go to work and forget the family.
be a man. Hell, they even dress like them anymore. You see them on. Well, I don't watch TV, but I do watch the internet, and I see versions. I see what shows up, and you look at it. You look, yeah. There's women that dress like women, and you can tell it's a woman from a distance. But even
Maybe, maybe not.
yeah, that's true. But well, we just had that inauguration, and you looked around at what various people were wearing, and there was a lot of women that were dressed like men in there. Of course, it was instead of having a tie, they had that thing around hell, we got men dressing like women, for Christ's sake, nowadays.
Maurice, it's all stinking mixed up. And that's like, if you think that this is natural evolution of humanity is the mixed up affair because it's about tolerance or it's about self-expression or it's about biodiversity, BS. I'm calling BS on that. That is not what's going on. And I'll probably, like, some viewers aren't going to like this, and I'm sorry about it, but it's just not, that is not natural evolution, is what we
That's
have
not
now. We
that'll
have,
away from the. I think it'll take us a little bit away from the, just the back and forth between men and women. There's a bigger story going on here that we should probably look at least a little bit, and that is there is a big separation going on in this culture, in this world, probably across the world. I can't speak to Africa or Asia because I don't know what's going on there at all. But in the Western world, which we are both of us involved within, there's people that buy into all that, what we call crap, and they absolutely believe that. But there's a whole bunch of other people that say no, that's wrong, and that's where we're coming from. And the
right.
and that separation is becoming more and more obvious between each group, and knowing that that's why you'll never have in this country you'll never have a harmony anymore, that because the separation has got that far. The other side, if you will not see it in the way we see it. And we look at what they're doing and we say that's wrong, and we'll never do that in our own lives. And that's what I'm talking about. That separation between, it's a cultural separation amongst people that is going on. We're not at war with each other with guns and knives and shit like that. But the way we live our lives and the way we view the world is separating on a lot of different levels.
It's if you look at the tactic of a war, of a war that's not, whether it's fought out physically or it's fought out in the heart or mind of people, it's divide and conquer. Sun Tzu, that bam, why is the art of war been a classic of all time? Because the tactics in there are the tactics. Divide and conquer is one of those. And it's when you're going against an opponent that's more powerful than you and has more people than you, how do you get in and get leverage? Divide and conquer. So whatever sort of wherever you are in understanding the kind of what's going on in this world, is that there is by a very small minority is creating a lot of how they stay in control and exert their control is by pitting people against each other. And that's the division, the
Right.
divide and conquer. They keep everybody all, disrupted down at this level so that they don't see what the real game is happening. And
Right.
it's right now is our politics is one of the biggest ways that we're seeing that work out. And neither side is the side. Neither side has it right. There's enough truth and lies woven in each one for each side to self-righteously point the finger at the other side and feel like, okay, I'm in the right because don't look at all this stuff, but because, and they're wrong, and I'm not going to look what's right about. I mean, it's just so silly when you step away from it and you look at it from a different perspective. I mean, it's just crazy making shit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
again, going back, the old way was one winner and one loser. Now I don't think it's going to be a situation like that. I think it's going to be a separation, and there's a difference.
Mm.
It's not our goal to conquer them and become the winner. It may still be their goal, but it's not ours. We're not coming from that point of view, and I would suggest that's a higher point of view, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It's a more inclusive point of view. It doesn't require a loser. Well, we're not. We recognize that all that ends up doing is uh, a little ways down the road, they'll figure out a way to conquer us, and then we got to figure a way to conquer them. That's been the story of our history for as
Yeah.
long as we have records for our history that we know about. At least where I'm at, and I know you are as well, we recognize that's a never-ending story.
It is the never ending story. And that's the plight of this world right now, where it is. We can't fix that. That's what
Nope.
go back to what we started with. We can't fix that. That going out there, that is so much bigger. There's so much else going on with it. It's not ours to fix. What is our responsibility? That's us. And
Yep.
that's what we're talking about. How do you undivide? How do you get unconquered? Is undivide yourself.
Right.
Undivide your attention, undivide any kind of schism you have in your heart, where it's saying one thing and you're being called to this, yet you act differently out there. Your world looks different. It's time to really hone that all in and start to recreate your world in alignment with who you really are.
Which
And
is
until
what we really talk about. How to actually ways in which that can actually be done
yeah,
individually. Because in the end, and you've said it, and so have I, in the end, this is a solitary individual journey. It literally is. You see the world in a different way than I do. We see a lot of similarities and we can agree upon a lot of things, but we still, I guarantee you, if we actually went down, we'll never do it, but if we ever wanted to do it, we would find things that we differ on. That we could actually
yeah.
say, "Oh, you're wrong," or at least it doesn't work for me.
No, we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do that. I would be, how it would work out, Maurice? I would
Sure.
be very curious to learn about you, and I'd be very curious, like, well, tell me about that. You feel like that. And I would love it. And I would enjoy your different perspective
Well,
from
that's
my perspective. And it might enhance mine. I may adjust mine from, or I may not. It doesn't matter. It's just for me, when you're centered in yourself, other people that feel differently, it's not a threatening thing. It does not matter. It does
correct.
not matter.
I come at it the same way, literally. I can learn from everybody. Doesn't mean that I'm going to experience it like them, but I say, wow, I didn't feel that way, but now that possibility exists, if nothing else. Do I agree with
Yeah.
it? Do I want to adopt it for myself? That's how we do help each other as fellow, if you will, fellow travelers. But
Fellow travelers. I love that. We are fellow travelers for a small wink of time on this plane, and it's just like we've come here all to experience something different and create something different.
right,
And let's celebrate those differences in a way of, I don't mean sound woke with that because it's not in that. It's like the true, honest interior, not how I dress and present myself, a gender
right,
out there, whatever. It's about the truth of who I am, my spiritual truth.
yeah, right,
And that's the really important thing. And I think, like, because I wanted to tap back into what you're saying, Maurice, is that is what our show's about. We always try to make things practical. If we talk about something, it's like, well, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And so one of the things,
Wise sayings and subtle practices that can be talked about, but that's not what you and I do. Although
right.
I know that I've run into quite a few of them along the way, not only in books, but actual people talking and saying things, and so have you.
Yeah.
And but in the end, the way, to use a stereotype, the way a swami or a guru lives his life is not the way you will or I will. Even though
No.
they walk around, they say all these wise things. We don't live our lives like that, and we pick and choose what we can do and can't do. Find out
Yeah.
you can't be a fucking guru.
Well, it's personal responsibility. And this is where we start the whole thing is coming back to personal integrity. And integrity just means like what's the word integrous means? It means that like, it's holding together. It's continuity. It's one thing. So personal integrity is about having the integrity of a wholeness of who you are and consistency throughout, right? It's the integrity of it. And so it's the strength. Like isn't the integrity of steel or something when they
Well, if
work
nothing
with
else,
metals?
it's solidity as opposed to confusion or dispersion.
Right. And
And
that's our responsibility is to be integrous with who you are, with your heart. And what other people do isn't your responsibility. It's not your problem. This is a huge one. This is where we start with women. We took a beautiful journey around. But as women, this is one of the things that I think is very helpful is that we tend to want to take responsibility for other people's feelings in particular because we are the soothers, we're the soothsayers, we are the ones that are going to make nice and have everything work out and all that. So we tap in and we're very sensitive, we can feel things and we want things to be smooth. And because of that, we tend to with either our partners or people we're close with, family, kids, whatever, we tend to take responsibility for their response to things. And women, that's not your responsibility. Now, having said that, I also feel like if you're trying to communicate something to somebody else, like if I'm trying to share with somebody, how I feel about something, then it is my responsibility that they hear what I have to say. It's not my responsibility how they respond, but if I want to get a message across, then it's my responsibility to get the message across. So that's why in just any kind of like self-help group kind of things, relationship stuff, they always have one party say what they heard the other party say. Okay, I say my deal, the other person will go, oh, Lisa, this is what I heard you saying,
oh,
because they may not have heard it. I mean, it's just a simple skill we all know, or hopefully we know and we hopefully use. You repeat it back so the person has a responsibility, can keep communicating in the right way that it's heard accurately. That's
yeah,
where your responsibility ends, right there,
yeah.
to
I've
be
never
heard
I've never
accurately.
got involved in any of those kinds of groups, so that's news to me, and that's good information. Uh, I've always lived by the, and it's worked for me personally anyway. Um, it does no good whatsoever to talk over somebody's head, and I'm sensitive to that. When I'm talking to somebody, I've already made a decision at what level of language I can use,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a range of communication skills verbally, in particular. I can write too. I don't do it much, but I can write. But generally speaking, in a personal relationship, my first gauge is who is the person I'm talking to, and where are they coming from, and what can I say and what can't I say. And it's not a list I go through; it's just a natural thing that happens. I'm just putting it in a kind of a verbal explanation. And then I talk to the people where I determine my ability to do that is proved to be pretty good. I can talk to them in their language, at least
But
English.
that's because your heart's in the right place, Maurice. It's not about I'm just going to express myself and screw however it lands or how it hurts people or how it's perceived. That's not the goal. Communication is
Oh,
communication. It's
right.
your responsibility is if I care about the other person really hearing me and if I really care, then I want to make sure I'm communicating properly. And this is a huge thing. Like, do you ever find people that you feel like you're being talked at and they
Yes.
don't care about you? They want to share their view. And it's all about them. I'm telling you what, it's a real, uh, that is excruciating. You have to sit there in someone's presence and just listen when they could give a shit about you, period. And
Yeah.
we all have known those people, and we may be with people like that. We have family like that. It's because the real thing is like when you get your heart in out of the selfish, self-centered thing, into the real centered thing is like, all right, it matters. Like you're saying, Maurice, it matters. Like, who am I talking to? Why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this with the other person because I want to help or I want to share this with them. It's not just about me. The stuff that's just about me, that's about me. I don't talk about it. If I talk about something, even with my core group of women friends, I bring something up very specifically, and sometimes we do share just about our stuff, but that's in a more intimate setting. But basically communicating, um, it's really about the other person. If you're
It
going to
is.
share it, why are you sharing it? First, be aware why you're sharing it, who that person is, what can they hear, what kind of language is going to work, and then it's your responsibility to keep saying it until you get the right words and it comes across.
You know, and you get feedback. And at least I do. I'll speak again personally. I can tell whether if I'm being effective or not, and I'll change.
Hmm.
If I'm going over their head or I use a word that I all of a sudden it dawns on me, they may not know what I mean when I say that, then I'll back up and define that word. Or I'll ask
Right.
them, do you know what that word means? And if they and that it just and I'll ask them honestly, and if they don't, then I'll define it for them. I am not going to go past that point where I get a blockage. I want to clear it before I continue on with whatever I'm saying. And well, well, you don't know by a lot of experience, but generally I listen more than I talk.
Yeah.
But I actually listen, and that's what I'm doing. I'm listening. I'm learning all kinds of things about people when they talk.
Well, when I met you, the one only time in person so far, because we're going to have more meetings in the future, was in a group setting, a small group setting. And Maurice was very quiet,
Yeah, what?
very unassuming, very quiet, just kind of taking things in the corner. And it wasn't until the party left, it was at our house, I was entertaining, and everybody was leaving, that Maurice came up to me and he's just like, I see you. And right then it was just like, oh my God, I see this person, and it was this like this connection that happened. But it wasn't, and I don't think I really talked that much in that group because
You
I was
did.
kind of feeling the situation. I was feeling the situation. It was a whole other thing
Well,
going on.
you were doing your version of what I was doing, only you were the hostess, so you had to be more visible. I mean,
Exactly.
and your husband was there, but you were the one that was running the show, not him.
Right, exactly. And yeah, so it's just kind of interesting. But here, it's just communication things. And it goes back to that, like in a relationship with a couple and with men too, is just this communication. What we're talking about, communication is communing with another person. So if you
Yes.
really want to communicate something, it's not about you dumping your crap on somebody else. That's called dumping. And
Yep.
all that's good. That is like you got to look at your own heart on that. If that's you just feel like dumping on somebody because it can be hurtful. It can be, maybe it's a backlash of what you're feeling, and but it's about if you really want to communicate, think of the root communing, and that's really making sure that there's a meeting together of understanding, and that both because you communicate it and commune, you understand each other better, and then
Sure.
something can grow from it.
Yep.
It may grow a partner relationship, it may grow together, but at least you get on the track of reconnecting what's real about what's going on.
Well, it's that like I said earlier, if you're not growing, you're going in the opposite direction. No relationship is static. It may be
Right.
static for a few moments, but generally speaking, the generalization is accurate. If you're not growing, you're dying.
You're going to be stagnant for a short time, and then it's like, it's go downhill.
And
That's
that's something
very
that men don't
interesting.
know so well. I wish they did, but they don't. Women are much more attentive to that. They may not know. The likely more women know that shit than I'm aware of. Even I because
What do
that
you think it is, Maurice? What do you think? Why do you think, in general, a lot of men will take relationships for granted? They do all this stuff to get the woman, and once they have them, then they just kind of think it's just there. And what is it? Is it they're just because they lack skill in that area that they just kind of avoid it because it's an emotional area connection? I mean, what is that? Why men tend to like avoid nurturing a relationship?
there's a couple of reasons for it. Probably it's part of our nature, and I can't go that down that road very far in a technical sense. It is partly part of our nature, but I will say again, harkening back to my upbringing, which is similar to yours, not identical, even for the men in your group as well.
Mhm.
We were not educated by our parents and our society. It was not even brought up. Whereas I know for sure women are from the beginning. It's part of your nature to want to do all of these things, but you've got women around there talking to you and encouraging you to pay attention to those details. Men are not at all. We were not educated at all in that regard. And when women, at least in my life, when women came up, they were fucking objects. And that's so shallow, but that's what men were. That's how much attention was paid to the training of men, that it is important. So and that's changed massively. Obviously, I'm talking about it and you're talking about it. I never heard a conversation like this in my life growing up.
Right.
So a lot of men, they just don't know, and what they do know is a very shallow knowledge, and they miss so much. If
Well, yeah, this comes back to more, this just comes back to our educational system for me. Like, what's wrong with our educational system is we're not taught how to be people. We're taught all these sciences, the efficacy and the truth behind them and history and all that. That's a different subject. But we're taught like what we're given to learn. And that's it. And it's not about being human beings.
no, it's not.
It's unfortunately, it's like how do we navigate these vehicles, this physical vehicle that has a heart, that has a mind, that has emotions, that has, physical proud. How do we like navigate and steer these avatars? And there's an art to it. I mean, I felt for so much of my life just as I was a young woman going out in the world, it's like I just have to figure out how to steer, how to drive me, how to navigate me. I mean, I was consciously aware of that I was in this vehicle. I felt like I as a spirit got put in this vehicle, and there's all these buttons and things, and I'm going, oh my God, how do I do this?
Yeah.
Without any training on how to be a human being. I mean,
Nope.
literally, I was perplexed by that for so long.
We were taught how to function in society as a machine. That's a harsh way of saying it. It's an overstatement, but effectively, that's what it was. We were not taught how to be human beings. We were taught how to be human doings.
Exactly.
That's a
Yep,
more clever way
exactly.
of saying it. We were taught how to be uh, uh, functioning
It's
skill.
it's the doing. It's like being evaluated by what you do out there,
Correct.
and the
We
the
were
the
taught how to
results of actions, as opposed to the
be.
intent, the beingness behind the action.
Correct. That's
And
exactly.
that's yeah. That's where it comes back down to, which is a whole other topic, is not being fooled by the appearance of things. And
Yep.
as we wisen up and we get savvy in
Yep.
navigating this world, is one of the things we have to learn is not to get fooled by the appearance of things because they
And
don't necessarily represent the spirit or the intent that you see.
that's what that's one of the sign signals, flags of what you call and I would call a crone. When women come to that understanding, realization, and accept it as the true reality, they they become wise. And the word we use for a wise woman is a crone.
Right. What's the word for a man? I've been using the
Uh,
word elder, but I don't know what if there's a specific.
Wise man, elder, those are nebulous terms. I don't know the specific
Yeah,
definition.
yeah.
Nothing as specific as crone that I'm aware of.
Well, I think the thing with the crone, which is so unusual about that, is that it's a huge transition for women because of the whole monthly cycle and the ending of this emotional roller coaster that's dependent on hormones. A woman's hormone levels are going like this all through the month. They are just weaving in and out, and you're on a roller coaster ride, man. I'm sorry, and there's nothing women can do about it. We've been given this hormonal
Yeah,
fluctuations where no 2 days the same. When you take that out, it's a different ball game. All of a sudden, women know what it's like to be a man, and it's like, I mean, there's a little subtle there, so subtle, so subtle. But it's like, oh, that's what it's like to just be like, feel the same day way I felt today is tomorrow or whatever. There's just none of this like raw physical
no,
fluctuations.
that is a big
Well,
thing too, and
it's a
a
huge thing. It's
big
a huge
difference
thing.
too. Men do not experience that at all. We hear women
No,
talking about it, but we don't know what it feels like.
no, and a woman knows what it feels like when she doesn't have a menses. Now, maybe it's something that's been induced for surgery earlier on. Your women are into an early onset of menopause because of maybe having their ovaries taken out or something like that, a hysterectomy, whatever the sense. But anyways, that's the time when the playing field gets level in a bit, because a woman is it's so dramatically different. And for all you women listening that are coming up to that point in your life, let me tell you, it's really nice.
I've heard that. I've heard that from
Don't miss a moment of that old craziness, and that's like a whole other story there about, you look at Jason from Archaic's work and the capture flood when the moon came in. We talk about women in the moon cycles and all of this stuff. So my theory that is that this whole hormonal thing that we experience now is a not an arbitrary pattern, but it's not a natural pattern of
really.
fertility for women, that there was possibly a different pattern of how that all came down. Because I don't really feel the moon is our friend, or the whole cycle thing is about keeping women off balance and out of their true, developing their true powers in nature. Anyways, we don't have to go into that. I'm just throwing that out there because it's a little thing where I just look empirically, at my life and the woman around me and what happens when we take away those huge swings, and suddenly we get to develop in our wisdom and we really hone into the
Right.
power of being a woman.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's visible. You don't go around waving flags and shit, but it can be seen. There's a difference. You become much more calm and much more serene about how you do things. You're still active as hell. You still talk.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
They fucking talk.
The basics of being a female, the feminine nature is still there. It's just that driving the vehicle, the female vehicle, suddenly we understand like we can drive it. It's not crazy town of all this stuff going on
True.
hormonally, so it's kind of I feel like it's just a marking, it's going into a different cycle of life, and it's a beautiful cycle, and it's a cycle about freedom and coming into self-awareness in a whole different way for a woman, and stability. And Maurice, because you've got a lot of your women friends are all my peer group.
Yeah,
They're
they are.
all late 50s on up. They're just like, yeah,
I know a couple in the 40s, believe it or not.
some youngsters, some
Yeah,
real youngsters.
one of them's my daughter for crying out loud.
Oh, that's crazy.
I
Oh
had a
man.
big part in raising her, so
Oh,
I kind
that's
of
so cool.
anyway.
Anyways, well, I think we kind of coming to a natural conclusion for
Yeah.
today.
And
You
God, we
know,
didn't go near where we thought we were going to go.
no, I made some notes. I was like, okay, Maurice, I think this is going to be kind of the topics of the day. And it just immediately went off into a whole other range of relationships. And I think that's beautiful. I'm looking forward to going back and listening and pulling out some nice little short videos,
I think there might
from
even
it.
one or two in there.
What's that?
I said, I think there might even be one or two in there.
Oh, I think there's going to be quite a few in there. I might even try like a few minute long ones. And I may even try to do the shorts, which have to be under 60 seconds. That means 59. You
Wow.
cannot, it's not 60. It won't go into shorts in on YouTube. So I think I can find a few little shorts in there. We'll see.
Okay, I
Um,
think you said a few things and I said a few things, so you can
I
pick
think
and
we did. I'll get us both there. All right. So I'm going to sign off and then we'll stay in chat. I'll stop recording. Everybody, it's been a pleasure. Please stay warm, stay safe wherever you are. And I just hope you have a blessed rest of your January. And remember to focus inward. This is your responsibility right here, is how you are centered in your world, your personal integrity, and just allow for your outer world to match up. Eventually it's going to match these things. I feel like for all of us, the matching of our inner reality and outer reality is going to really come into play this year. And it's going to be a really exciting time with that. So I just wish you the best. And Maurice, would you like to say anything to the viewers?
I'd like to add to that and agree with everything you just said. This year is going to be massive in the solidification of both sides. And we know where we stand, and just know that it will become more and more clear, even to the wise ones out there. The ones that know all these things and have their shit together really good. Just know it's going to get better in that regard.
Yeah.
For you too.
Yeah.
You're not done. Whoever the heck you are, and how wise or knowledgeable you are, you're going to learn things. You're going to become more and more solid in the things that are right for you. You'll see it in action, and what the
I
rest
love it.
done, it's going to go its direction. But
It's going to be crazier out there, but in here is going to be less and less crazy.
correct, exactly,
Yeah.
and trust that that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
For some kind of bigger plan that neither one of us can really elucidate or enunciate.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that
And
means.
that's okay. But that's okay. None of that. We don't have to understand it. We just play our part in it, and we'll just trust the bigger picture is got its own trajectory,
Yep.
But I love that, Maurice. Thank you. Those are really consoling words and a consoling thoughts to leave with, is that the world's going to be looking crazy, crazy, but in here is going to get stronger and stronger. And it's an exciting time.
I know that without proof. I can't prove it. It hasn't happened yet, but I can see it happening.
That's my reality. I'm going to walk in. We have that choice. That's the reality I believe in right there. This is the way you articulated it. Is that my world is coming together as the rest of it's falling apart.
Because that power resides within you.
Yeah.
And you know that. That makes a big difference. It really does. And it's a good thing.
It's a good thing. Okay, everybody, until next week or in 2 weeks, whenever we decide to meet next, sending you many blessings and much love. Bye-bye.